the Center for Sustainable Food Systems. That's kind of the name for the academic umbrella that is coordinating all the activities down at the UBC farm on South Campus. And it's actually nice that he mentioned the France thing, because that was a good eye-opening trip in terms of seeing to what degree a healthy food system can really enhance the community that it supports. And when food is culturally valued, what a different sense it gives, I think, to the entire culture, to the surroundings, to the landscape, to the beauty of the place. And if I can just bring a piece of that back here, I can hopefully suggest bits and pieces of it as I talk about the farm in 5 minutes. So, to begin with, I actually wanted to share with you a quote. Is that a speak up? Can people hear me actually if I detach from the microphone?
Yeah.
Because it's a bit easier for me to project than to monitor the volume that way.
You have to go away from the screen.
Nice. I actually wanted to begin with a quote from Stephen 2 that appears in our annual report, which is very appropriately entitled Foresight. The quote itself is, "The reputation that UBC now enjoys as one of the world's finest universities honors foresight fashioned a century ago. Such forward thinking can set us on a path for further decades of real achievement." And part of that vision is actually right in front of you, right there. Before there was any buildings on campus, before anything happened at Point Grey, they started farming. Having a site for a university farm was actually a bit of a deal breaker in terms of the location of the campus. The reason for this is that the university's founders and the people who were looking at demographic projections were very interested in the future of the food supply, where food was going to come from. They saw this wonderful fertile region in the Fraser Valley, and making their projections, they said that in the next 100 years, this was going to be home to, and I'll quote verbatim here, about 150,000 affluent farming families who would be through small market gardens, orchards, dairy operations, being kind of the breadbasket for the high-value foods that would be providing Vancouver with its food supply as well as the larger province. Things happened a little bit differently, and in our opinion, the things that happened a bit differently were kind of getting off track and losing the foresight that the founders of the university had, which really emphasized the kind of long-term thinking and system thinking that we're hoping to reintegrate through the work that we're doing at the Center for Sustainable Food Systems. So as quickly as possible, I'll give you the overview of what it is that we're doing there. To begin with, there always has been a farm. Teaching, research, and extension have been central roles for the university to promote through having a farm. It's been moved around a lot. It used to cover most of the campus, as you know today. Right now, the site that it's on was cleared in 1965. But what we have today, we can move on to the next slide. Oh, there you go. Within that red area is where the farming activity is happening right now. And one of the important things about that slide, if you can go back for 1 second, is there's the farm, and here is 1 in 4 BC residents. If you're talking about accessibility for BC's urbanizing population and making a link to where their food comes from, the university is ideally situated. And this is an incredible opportunity which can actually reach a whole lot of British Columbians. So, as I said, it's moved around a lot, but what we have today is essentially a reinvention. This is something that was created through visionary student action in 2000, where I think it was a handful of forward-thinking students who had a lot of foresight who probably saw that we had gotten off track a little bit, recognized a need for experiential learning, that's basically learning by doing, and understanding what was being taught in the classroom with links to practical things in the field, and recognized that the farmlands could be better utilized, better incorporated into the curriculum, and they started breaking ground and actually doing that, making this vision a reality, and turning this vision into something on the ground. And what's happened since 2001 has been nothing short of incredible growth. We've had 6 years actually averaging 50% growth per year in terms of the numbers of students who've been using the farm. In 2007, 41 different credit courses at UBC utilized the farm that represented 2,300 students, faculty, and staff who through credit courses were actually learning hands-on in the real farm setting, making those connections between theory and practice. This happened in a lot of very innovative ways. It's an outdoor classroom, it's a living laboratory. It's something which is entirely different than what happens in the classroom. It makes an impact when you're doing things hands-on. And to make those connections, to retain what's happening, and to actually take that theory and apply it to the important bits of the bigger world, the farm's been able to do that very effectively through all sorts of different student-directed studies, internships, credit courses. There's quite a list of things. Research is obviously a big part of this as well, and the research program has been emerging. The question that we're essentially asking is, what kind of food production system is going to sustain us for the long run? Liska has identified the complexity of the food system, as well as the urgency with which we have to act to try and make this food system better than it is today. And there's a lot of technical challenges in trying to create that food system, technical challenges that can be addressed through research in which the farm is ideally suited to be a site to explore. Its ideal situation is in a big part because of its proximity. We're right next to a world-class collection of researchers and analytic facilities. And having those two together, having the farm as the hub between the academic community and the Vancouver community, means that we can actually make that research relevant. Because the farm is not just a collection of research plots and teaching plots, but a working farm system, this means that the learning which happens and the research which happens is very relevant to what goes on in the real world, if you like. What's happening down there is quite typical of BC agriculture and lower mainland agriculture. The scale of what we're doing is a typical farm size. If you look at the average horticultural operation on lower mainland, it's about 14 hectares. That's slightly larger than the cultivated area, which is at the farm right now. But we can use the same techniques and the same production, the same management techniques that are relevant to the way that our food is actually grown and produced. This is different, by the way, than what you can do in a garden. And I don't want to use this as a way to sound like I'm knocking urban agriculture, but what happens in a garden is very different than the way that most of us are fed. And what we're doing at the farm is very similar to the way that most of us are fed. It's done on a scale which can actually be economically self-sustaining, and within a socioeconomic context, kind of meet all of those ecological goals, but also sustain itself as a business, as a way that people can meet their livelihoods. One of the things which is very important about what's happening at the farm is that integrated into all of the academic programs, all of those courses I told you about, which are growing, all of the research projects which seem to add each year as well, is that we have connections to the wider community. And it's this integration which I'm hoping we can spark some ideas when it comes to food security initiatives and indicators for campus. How can we make this kind of integration like we're doing here so that we're achieving multiple benefits using a single program? And this kind of thing here, our volunteer program, a whole bunch of nice acronyms. One of them, by the way, which is the least pronounceable of them all, that's the Urban Aboriginal Community Kitchen Garden Project. And it's one of the many First Nations initiatives at the farm, which is actually linking a lot of the more traditional First Nations food, land use practices, spirituality, and health to the emerging view of what a sustainable food system is in terms of what's happening in the field there. The kids are all there. We've got programs for learners of all ages, from kindergarten, of course, through the post-secondary. And then, of course, the wider community is welcome to join through a whole bunch of different programs that are integrated into the academic part. So whether you are there buying produce, which has come from a teaching plot or a research plot, whether you're there for a festival, a market, whether you're there for a workshop, for an educational event, for a symposium, for a field dinner, there's a lot of ways that the community can get involved, and this is one of those things that links it all together.